Wyrmspan just has become the game I'd rather play than Wingspan. It's just better. In my opinion, it's just like more fun. It's gonna make me not want to play Wingspan again.
Wow. That's certainly his opinion. In 2019, a game called Wingspan came out, and it dominated the board game scene. Everybody loved it. It's a game about bird watching where you're trying to collect a series of birds and you're building this engine where for some reason birds have powers. This is, equivalent to the X-Men universe if X-Men were birds. I don't get that analogy, but hey, you figure it out. It won lots of awards, including even the Dice Tower Award for most edible pieces. The game we're reviewing today is called Wyrmspan, and it is an adaptation of the original Wingspan. Wyrmspan is nearly the same game. They're very similar. You can see the inspiration for sure, but there is a lot they've updated in Wyrmspan to make it unique to a degree. How much? You'll just have to watch and find out, because we're going to talk about this fucking game. That's the point of this video, guys. If you didn't catch on from the title, that's what we're doing today. This is Wyrmspan. The goal of the game is to earn the most points. You earn points through a series of ways. You can earn points from collecting different dragons that have different point values. You earn points from the guild track that you'll be gaining points through by completing these guild objectives. You can earn points from round objectives, and you can also earn points from collecting eggs or stacking dragons or resources on other dragons. On your turn, you'll have a series of action coins, and these you'll allocate to different actions you can take throughout the turn. For example, there's the excavate action, which lets you place a cave. That's one of the major differences in this from Wingspan, is in Wingspan you could just play a bird immediately onto any of the slots in your various rows. In Wyrmspan, you have to have a cave in that spot before you can place a dragon there. So the excavate action is what lets you play caves from your hand onto the cave spot. Once you play the card, you get any bonuses that are listed there. Another action you can take is the entice action. That lets you play a dragon from your hand onto a cave you already have built. Now these starter caves, they already count as built, but in future rounds as you build more dragons, you'll be adding them to the caves you've built. When you take the entice action, you also have to pay the resource cost here of the dragon. And you'll earn resources through the exploration action, which I'll talk about in a sec. But there's milk, meat, amethyst, gold, all sorts of different resources you'll spend to play your dragons. The next action is explore, and this action is also unique to Wyrmspan. In the explore action, you'll be taking your explorer, and this is the one where you activate your engine. So in Wingspan, when you would play a bird or choose an action, whether it's to play a bird, lay an egg, you would also activate that engine in that row. However, in Wyrmspan, you have to take the explore action and you'll move along this track here, gaining the different benefits depending on how many dragons you have. So if I have a dragon in these two spots, I get to move along until I see the stop symbol. So I'll gain a resource. If I have dragon actions that are part of the explore, I'll do what they say. I may gain guild points, you may gain caves, you may gain dragons. Sometimes you'll lay eggs, which are worth points as well. But you'll take your little explorer and you'll move piece by piece until you see the stop symbol, and then you will stop. So the explore action is the way you activate your engine that you're building throughout the game. And those are the three actions you'll take on your turn. There are no other actions. So it's pretty straightforward as far as how turns work. You only have three actions. Once everyone has either passed or used all their coins, you go into the next round. One cool thing that's different from Wingspan to Wyrmspan is these coins, the ones you don't use on a turn, you get to keep for future rounds, so you can potentially have more actions on a future round. And that that, my friends, that's what we call exciting board game play. It's, at the end of a round, at the end of a round, you'll activate any dragon end of round abilities. For example, where the hell are these cards? For example, this particular card at the end of a round will activate, and you'll get to tuck a dragon under this card. And tucked dragons are worth points at the end of the game. So you activate those. You'll refresh any dragons and caves in the pool here, and then you will score for any end of round scoring cards. So, for example, this one. Players will score based on how many playful dragons they currently have in their caves. And the game proceeds. You play 4 rounds of the game, and at the end of the 4th round, you will tally your points and see who won. One important thing I didn't mention in detail in the rules explanation is the Dragon Guild. There's lots of ways to earn points within the Dragon Guild, and based on which of these cards you choose, you'll have different scoring conditions based on these guilds. So every time you reach a certain point on the guild track, you'll get to place some of your cubes to score on some of these tracks. So for example, this one here has 1 slot, so the first person to claim this gets to pay one of their action coins and then gets to play 2 caves for free from their hand. Or this one here has an end of game scoring condition. If you place your cube here, you get 1 point for each cave you have on your board at the end of the game. So there's a lot of different actions you can take through the guild, and the guild plays a pivotal role in this game. And that is another big difference from Wingspan to Wyrmspan. But that's essentially the game. There's some minor rules here and there, but you get the gist. You'll notice if you've played Wingspan, Wyrmspan is very similar. But there are some slight changes that may, spoiler alert, change how we feel about the game. Again, you'll have to watch and see what we think. I'm doing a lot of talking with my hands right now. It's very jarring. Anyway, let's talk about our thoughts.
There.
That's truly.
Hey, buddy. Alrighty, so the design of Wyrmspan, I would say overall, I think it is a beautiful game. I think it's really busy, and the board itself, let me grab it really quick. The board, the colors are gorgeous. I love like the watercolor, I like the color kind of palette that they went with, but it is so hard to look at. It is not clear what is on this board. I honestly had to play about 4 to 5 games before I even could look at the board and clearly see everything that I'm supposed to see on the board. So clarity is not good, especially when you compare it to something like Wingspan, which, let me just grab that one. From this far away, you could probably understand what is on this board. It's so much clearer, so much less cluttered. Everything looks more organized, even down to the lines where the cards are supposed to go. There's a nice dark background, the lines are nice and white. Whereas on this one, since it's watercolor, you can hardly even see the lines even up close.
So as far as design goes, I agree with Blake. It's very cluttered. As far as the boards go, I mean, like he showed you, the Wingspan boards are just so clean. And unfortunately, Wyrmspan cannot stand alone on its own without being compared to its predecessor, Wingspan, because it is just another version of Wingspan, ultimately. Unfortunately for Wyrmspan, Wingspan is one of the most gorgeous games ever made. And so when you see this board, this fucking thing, and you compare it to this work of art, this gorgeous, colorful thing, I mean, it's just just night and day. And then look at these dragons. This is one of the dragons. I mean, look at this. What the hell is that? What is this? What is this garbage? These dragons look ridiculous. Like, it's like, and it doesn't look bad. I'll say that. But when you're comparing it to Wingspan, which is one of the most, I mean, look at these birds. And look at those gorgeous birds. Look at this. I mean, even the raven, which is just a black bird, nothing else on that bird, looks better than every dragon in that game. The art is like night and day, and I don't get what happened here. Not that it's bad. Again, it's not bad. But if you're going to make a game of Wingspan with a new theme, make the art just as good or at least closer in comparison. I make it sound like I hate this game. I don't. I really like this game. But as far as graphic design goes, it's a little disappointing when you compare it to Wingspan.
Okay, so as far as the design, nope, not the design. So as far as the design, I already talked about that a second ago. As far as the gameplay in Wyrmspan, it pretty much plays the same way as Wingspan. So if you like Wingspan, you're gonna like Wyrmspan. It's just a little bit more complicated, has more control, and has some like additional mechanics. So the first thing that I love about the Wyrmspan take on the Wingspan formula is the coin-based action system. So whereas in Wingspan, you had a bunch of cubes that kind of track how many turns you can do per round, and those turns are reduced by 1 per round, if that made sense. So you start off with a certain number of cubes. Each round you get 1 fewer cube because a cube is being taken from you to be put on the end of round goal tracker. That doesn't happen in Wyrmspan. In Wyrmspan, you just have these tokens. You get 6 tokens at the beginning of every round, but you can play like cave cards or hit certain markers on the Dragon Guild tracker that give you more coins. So the number of turns you get per round is variable, but more importantly, it doesn't decrease. And the reason that's so great is because you have more time to build your engine, and even better, you have more time to like experience your engine and have fun with like using this powerful dragon engine that you've spent all this time building. So you have these crazy runaway builds where like you can just keep spamming the same row over and over again. I mean, you're kind of capped at 3, which is a whole different mechanic, but you can basically spam it like 3 times per round. And so that just feels great because you actually get to use the engine that you built, which I feel like in Wingspan, it just did everything in its power to like not let you use your engine more than like once or twice, you know? Which in retrospect really kind of drove me crazy, and I just didn't realize it till that wasn't a thing. Oh, one thing that I would say that is great about Wyrmspan that was a huge issue in Wingspan was the bird feeder. this dang thing right here. So a lot of people complain about the bird feeder in Wingspan. I never had an issue with it until I played Wyrmspan. And then when I played Wyrmspan, I realized this is the most god-awful, frustrating mechanic ever conceived by mankind. It's just, like, you only have, 5 resources available to you at any time, and they're random. And if nobody else around you wants them, you just have to sit there and wait till somebody takes it so it gets refreshed. It's like the whole game just basically becomes you, like, laser focused on this bird feeder, waiting till the one thing that you want comes up. And there's only ever one of them because you just have bad luck, and you're just like, ah. So the whole thing, there's this huge bottleneck surrounded around the bird feeder. Whereas in Wyrmspan, the top row action is just you get a resource of your choice. And like tons of dragons give you resources. Some cave cards give you resources, I think. So you don't really feel anywhere near that level of scarcity. Like, obviously you don't just have unlimited resources at any time, but you're not just like sitting there staring at this dumb bird feeder to like finally give you a fish. So the Dragon Guild right here is a new mechanic in Wyrmspan that doesn't really have like an equivalent in Wingspan. And oh my gosh, it is so much fun. Like, every decision that you make in the game is centered around like what's the next thing that happens on the Dragon Guild tracker, because every row that you activate, every row that you explore, as soon as you get past like the first dragon that you play there, that column has a Dragon Guild activation marker. So pretty much anytime you explore, you're getting progress on here. Cave cards have when played abilities that give you progress on your Dragon Guild. I don't think any dragons have that, but yeah. So every decision you make just becomes centered around this. Like you could be like, oh, I really need a meat, but I know if I explore on the bottom row, like I'm gonna get a meat. I don't have to do a top row, which would normally give me the resource because I could just wait till I hit this. So I think that's so much fun, and like, I don't know, it kind of like mixes up the rounds. And I mean, the other thing too is when you get to the top and the bottom, there's this little card that goes right here in the middle that kind of gives you bonuses every time that you hit one of these points. I think those are really fun. I don't think that they're nearly as game changing as all of the like stuff that you get from going around this thing. I mean, they do have pretty big effects, but I just think the presence of the Dragon Guild and knowing that like certain things are coming up really changes like how you think about what's going on, and I love it. Yeah, it's such a good mechanic. I don't even know what else to say. So last thing I wanted to talk about gameplay wise was on the end of round goal tracker thing, whatever you call this, Matt. I don't know the term for it. Basically, whenever you finish a round, there's this little marker here that kind of shows like a little stopwatch that's partially filled. So this is like an end of round activation ability. The closest equivalent that I can think of to this thing is like in Everdell when you have end of season activation abilities. So basically some of your dragons that you play will have this thing, and usually it's like if you have a certain number of dragons, like play an egg on every dragon in this row or stuff like that. I think it's really fun. I personally really like the when explore activations, but that's just me because I like the dopamine rush of doing explore and just getting like a million resources and like an egg and a dragon in a cave, and it's just like yes, instead of having to wait till the end of the round. But I think it's a really cool mechanic because the earlier you play dragons that have end of round activation abilities, like the more valuable they are, because the more end of rounds you're going to experience before the end of the game. So I thought that was a fun addition, and it really just, if nothing else, it just added like more variety in the dragon cards, which is cool.
I agree with Blake. There's a lot of good additions here. Connie Vogelman, who redesigned this and added all the implemented all the stuff, she's definitely someone to watch out for. She's going to be, I could definitely see her being the next big designer. She did Apiary last year and then Wyrmspan this year. And I mean, both solid games. Those are her first 2 and only 2 games. That is a very good track record, and she's off to a very good start. I really do like Wyrmspan a lot as far as gameplay. I love the guilds, like Blake mentioned. I love the end of round stuff. I love the coin actions, like Blake mentioned. Those are all great additions. A few complaints. Sometimes I miss the objective cards. In Wingspan, you would get objective cards that would give you like something to aim for that was a little more like gave you like a focus, and I definitely wish those were still in the game. And to be fair, sometimes those objective cards would kind of screw you because it'd be like, hey, have the 3 birds with India in their name, and you're like, well, I don't have any cards with India, and then you could never see any of the birds with India in their name or whatever, right? Like, I never got the Indian dovetail or whatever the hell, I don't know what birds are in India. The point is, definitely cut that out. The point is, I missed that mechanic for sure. Another thing is, I think there's room for both in your collection. Wyrmspan is like a step up as far as complexity and strategy. Wingspan, I think if I'm teaching someone the game for the first time, I think there's a place for both games in your collection. Wyrmspan's a little more complex, a little more strategic, whereas Wingspan's a little simplified. If you're teaching this game, I suggest you start with Wingspan first and then work your way into Wyrmspan with whatever group you're playing with. The big question that's probably everybody's going to be asking is which one is better? I flip-flop. I love the simplicity of Wingspan. I love the art so much better. I like the theme so much better too. The theme is so much better. Oh God, oh look, we got Wyrmspan, another fantasy game. Oh boy, I haven't seen a fantasy game before. Holy moly, I'm so sick of it. Like, Wingspan was so unique. You're a bird watcher. What game are you gonna play where you're a bird watcher? Like, that's so fun. That's so unique. And then they were like, for the sequel, let's have it be fantasy. I sound like I hate this game. I really don't, guys. I swear. I really like this game a lot. I sound very mad. I'm not meaning to, guys. Please, look. I'm just baffled by some of the choices here. I think Wyrmspan, I would have liked it so much better if it was Wingspan 2nd edition. That would have cleared up a lot of things for me because the theme would have been better. Hopefully the art would have been better. And I would have just enjoyed it more. I still really like it. So I guess I've been beating around the bush. Which one is better? Gameplay-wise, Wyrmspan, for sure. I love the gameplay in Wyrmspan. Overall package, I think Wingspan's better. I think Wingspan's better overall package, and I'll play that 9 times out of 10. And it's funny because the first time I played Wyrmspan, I was like, oh, this blows Wingspan out of the water. And then I played it another time, and I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is very good. But I prefer Wingspan. That's just my opinion. You know, you're gonna have to like decide for yourself. You see how the games play, and I definitely think Wyrmspan offers a more strategic experience. So if that's important to you, then definitely go with Wyrmspan. If you want an overall package that's a very good, like almost introductory engine builder, Wingspan is just perfect for that, and the theme is so much better.
We should talk about some of the things that you brought up in the last section of the video.
Okay, yeah.
So theme-wise, you were talking about how basically Wingspan has like a great theme. I think the theme in Wingspan is like a veneer. Like it is like very, very shallow. I think Wyrmspan, the mechanics go better with the theme. Like for example, any of the things you could do, like excavate. You find a cave, you excavate it, you know? Then you get like resources to like entice the dragons to live in that cave. And then once that cave is all infested with dragons, you go like explore and find different resources and stuff in there, and like, you know. Yeah. So I think thematically it's like the things you're doing in the game make more sense in that universe, to me at least.
Yeah, I think both games, honestly.
Yeah.
The theme is like, you could take out the theme and they'd be the same game practically for both.
You could slap a lot of different themes on the same mechanic.
And I don't really have I like the uniqueness of a bird watching game as opposed to, oh, dragons again, here we go. You know.
I agree with that. I think Wyrmspan wins in the actions you're taking integrating with its theme, but I think Wingspan, the actual theme of birds, is way more unique and fun.
Yeah, I actually think I would agree with that. Yeah, the mechanics of Wyrmspan fit better with the theme than the mechanics of Wingspan. Wingspan is probably, like, as far as art goes, might be like the best looking game in my opinion.
Yeah, and visual clarity.
Yes.
So beats out Wyrmspan. Like 100%. Like there's portions of the Wyrmspan board that just have like literal scribbles on it. Like it looks like somebody who's like doing math homework on it.
Yeah, it's
like
wild.
It looks fine, but like it makes it so hard to fucking look at it and know what you're looking at. It's like just get rid of all that stuff. Yeah. Oh, objective cards. That was the other thing you were talking about.
Oh yeah.
I am so glad they took out the objective cards.
Really?
I think the game is more fun when you don't have this side objective that's like kind of stressing you out, knowing you're not doing a good job at it.
Yeah.
I think the Dragon Guild tracker, to an extent, replaces that.
That's true.
It doesn't feel like a one-to-one comparison, but it like there's an overarching like thing that you're kind of like trying to progress.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
The guild is fun. I like that a lot. And the objective cards, though, I feel like if you get one that screws you over, you don't have to do it. You can still win just doing your own strategy.
Yeah. I feel bad about myself.
That's fair. The ones that are the worst is like, oh, you have to get the birds with this name.
Yeah, and it's like
okay, well, we'll never draw this.
There's like 400 cards.
Right. There's so many birds. And if you add an expansion, too, like, how am I going to get this bird?
Just instantly lose.
But I do miss those still, even with that complaint. What would you
Okay.
give Wingspan out of 10 before we give our number for Wyrmspan?
I'd probably give it like an 8, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would give original Wingspan a 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
9
fair.
out of 10. And I, unlike you, I got into Wingspan late.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I literally got it this year. I've been collecting board games for like 10 plus years now.
That's insane. It was
So-
such a popular game for such a
Yeah,
long
it was
time.
huge, and I just put it off getting it because I was like, I don't know if I'll like this game.
Yeah.
Played it, and I was like, this is fantastic. This is an amazing game.
So what would you give Wyrmspan?
Wyrmspan, my final score for Wyrmspan, 8 out of 10. I really like it.
Wow,
It's
okay.
very good.
Yeah.
There's just some things I can't get over that, like, Wingspan, I think, has got
Yeah.
a beat in. But-
I think for me, I'd give it like an 8.5.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't go quite into the 9 range just because I mean, honestly, because like the fact that it's built off of Wingspan is always gonna be like somewhat overshadow it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
like
of course.
every time you're playing it, you're like, oh, this aspect is so much better than Wingspan. You know, so it's like it doesn't feel as much like a standalone game. It feels almost like, oh, thank God, this annoying thing isn't happening to me because I'm playing this instead of Wingspan.
Right.
So, Wyrmspan just has become the game I'd rather play than Wingspan. And I think definitely not a perfect game, not as clean. It's not as simple, definitely not as easy to teach. It's harder to, like, worse visual clarity. There's a bunch of stuff where it's like Wingspan beats it in certain areas, but I think mechanically, it's just better. In my opinion, it's just like more fun. I think it's gonna make me not want to play Wingspan again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's certainly his opinion. I just like Wingspan better, and
That's fair. Good game.
yeah, Wyrmspan is fun. It's a lot more strategic. So
Yeah.
if you want both, I think Wingspan's great for teaching, and then Wyrmspan's good if you want more strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Alrighty. Well, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hey, we love you.
Thank you to Stonemaier Games for letting us review your game. Just kidding. I wish.
Just kidding. Hey, but Stonemaier, Jamie Stegmaier, hit us up. Okay, wait a minute. They didn't even list the wingspans on the dragons.
Oh, you're right.
They don't
didn't.
even list that. What the?
They didn't. They even
What are
bended
they
the span of their
doing?
worms.
Yeah. Yeah, what the hell? Where's the worm span information? How many centimeters?
Tell me how long their worms are. Come on. Final thoughts. The eggs look a lot more edible. I'm just kidding.
They look like jelly beans.
They do look like jelly
That should be a game. You put you pour those eggs into a bag of jelly beans and
Oh, and see which-
and see if we got a jelly bean
That's
or
not a choking hazard at all.